Instagram story for Wednesday, January 8th. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. Yesterday, the CEO of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, went on record talking about some updated policies when it comes to Meta and how they're handling political content. I'm going to get into that on today's episode with both an audio clip from the CEO of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, and the head of Instagram, Mosseri, talking about what these changes will mean for creators. But before we get into that, I recently got a new review for the show, which I am very happy to get. I absolutely love when I get reviews because it means that you guys not only are willing to listen and you like the content, but also that you can take the 30 seconds to just leave a review so other people can find the show. Here's the review that I got.
One of the best podcasts. I've been enjoying Daniel's podcasts and have learned so much in just the last few months. I appreciate the straight answers about what's happening on social media that I need to know about. Very timely in presenting the latest information. Thank you, JSJMC.
Thank you so much for that review. We're going to get into the CEO of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg's updates about the platform, but first, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back. Let's get into today's news. Yesterday, the CEO of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, made a long video post, essentially talking about some of the changes that have to do with speech across Meta platforms. One of the biggest changes is that they've formerly had human fact checkers who are verifying what people post as to whether it's accurate and truthful or not. However, they are now replacing that with community notes, meaning that individuals who do not work for the platform will actually be weighing in on whether or not posts are accurate or not. Here's the video clip from Mark Zuckerberg explaining all the changes.
Hey everyone, I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political. But there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote non-stop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact-checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now, we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high-severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. so we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right, and these are complex systems. They're never going to be perfect. There's also a lot of illegal stuff that we still need to work very hard to remove. But the bottom line is that after years of having our content moderation work focus primarily on removing content, it is time to focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our systems, and getting back to our roots about giving people voice. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Stay good out there, and more to come soon.
Okay, he said a lot there, and let's be honest. Politics is a lot of what's motivating the decisions that Meta has made as a whole. The policy of this show is to not get involved in politics. That's just my personal policy, although it is quite hard sometimes. However, what is important, and what I will cover on this show, is what this means for you as a creator. The head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, is going to explain that after the break. Welcome back. Here's the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, talking about some of the new changes that Meta will be implementing, and most importantly, what they mean for creators. Here's the clip.
Mark posted yesterday about a number of updates we're making across the Meta platforms focus on free speech. So I wanted to take some time today to explain what this means for you if you're a creator out there. Now, a quick recap. He posted about 5 major changes. The first was moving away from our third-party fact-checking program and moving towards a system of community notes. The second was tightening some of our policies around specific issues to allow more discourse around those issues. The third was focusing a lot on reducing over-enforcement of content moderation across all of our platforms. The fifth was reintroducing political and civic recommendations to allow politics to have as much space on our platforms as any other topic. And the fifth was moving some of our content policy and content moderation teams out of California into the state of Texas. Now, if you're a creator, the two that are probably relevant to you are the third and the fourth: over-enforcement and political content. Now, over-enforcement. And what this means more tangibly is we're going to be doing things like moving from proactively scanning for low-risk harms to waiting for reports for those harms. This should mean that we make far less mistakes in terms of taking content down. Now, if you do think that there's an issue with your account, please go to account status, which is under profile and settings, and you can see if you have any content takedowns or any other flags on your account. But hopefully there'll be significantly less mistakes moving forward. And if you're a creator that likes to post about political content, this should mean that you feel comfortable doing so on any of our platforms. We will now show political recommendations. That means posts from accounts you do not follow across of our platforms and in a personalized way. And you don't have to worry about your account becoming non-recommendable overall if you predominantly post about politics. This will be effective immediately and will ramp up over time, but you should feel the effects, if not this week, over the next few weeks, particularly on Threads, where there are a lot of people who have been telling us that they want to talk about politics, and we want to be responsive to that feedback, which, by the way, is very different than the feedback we were getting only a few years ago about people feeling they were overly exposed to political content across our platforms. Now, Instagram specifically was founded on this idea of creativity and giving anybody a voice. And my hope is this focus on free speech is going to help us do even a bit better along that path. Because if we want anybody with something worth sharing to be able to be creative on our platform, they need to feel comfortable expressing themselves on our platform. More to come. Peace.
I'm going to take this opportunity to say that if you find that the Meta platforms are not fulfilling your needs for whatever reason, or they don't align with your views going forward, it is perfectly acceptable to go ahead and find other platforms to use instead. There are going to be trade-offs with those platforms. Maybe the friends and family that you like to interact with on the Meta platforms are not on the other potential platforms that you'd switch to, but you may feel more comfortable with the policies that those other platforms have implemented. It's nice to have that level of choice, although it can be quite frustrating when your friends and family don't necessarily want to switch platforms. That is going to do it for today's episode. As always, you can find links to everything I talked about in the show notes, and be sure to come back next time for more social media news, strategy, and other things that I'm absolutely positive you should be aware of.
Let me tell you a couple things that you should know about me. A product manager, but do not have a bachelor's degree. But actually, that's factually a fraction of me. Another fraction's posting content irregular and irrationally. Still probably won't get a job at the Gram. They forgot, they don't know, or don't care who I am. That's why you never see me at the parties and events. My lack of followers must make me irrelevant. Don't have a course, a book to sell to make a bag of grand. Not a social media marketer, don't represent any brands. Plain to see, don't have an agency, but I got a lot of spam. Just putting in my work, without the glitz and glam. Won't catch me eating fish, unless it's shrimp or clam. No six pack, no risk that, there's a gym card in my hand. Don't have a full-time job, but I got a lot of plans. Stay plotting, dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram.